Okay, here we go with another episode of the Sloth Doctors. I am Dr. Chip.
I am Dr. Bob, and we are really happy to have today with us Patrick Kendrick, an acclaimed author of 6 different books. Started off as a dual career as a firefighter and a freelance journalist. Let's list some of the books. American Ripper, The True Story of America's Serial Killer Cop. His newest novel right now is Edison's Last Breath. I just finished reading, or I didn't finish reading, I'm about a third of the way through Papa's Problem, his first novel, and we're really happy to have him here on the podcast. Welcome.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
I guess I'll start.
Jump in, man.
We just wasted about 15 minutes of content.
We'll get back to all that, though. So let me just start with, before you even started writing, it says that you spent years as a firefighter. Where at? In Florida?
Yes. I started in West Palm Beach, and I was there for about 14 years. And I was a lieutenant, and Tamarack Fire Rescue came about, and they were a very small city growing, and they needed a battalion chief with some experience. And I had quite a bit of experience from West Palm Beach, shooting, stabbings, fires every day.
Did you ever remember, did you ever work with a gentleman by the name, or know a guy named David Jordan?
Oh, yeah.
David Jordan was my uncle.
No way.
Yeah. He was a fire chief down here, and I believe it was in West Palm Beach.
Yeah, he was our fire marshal.
I was almost going to interrupt you and say that we owe, we should shout out to our mutual friend of all of us, Opie.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, that's how I met Pat through Opie.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which, as a matter of fact, for purposes of the show, I don't think we should ever really mention Opie's real name, because of all the people we know, he actually might someday have some political ambition.
Yeah. He will forever remain Opie.
But everybody will know who we're talking about that knows who Opie is. But
I would almost bet on that, and I asked him to come with me today. And
he's not coming on this thing. I don't think he can.
I think he was flirting with the idea, but no, he's.
I don't know. If he has any political ambitions, he probably shouldn't come on this.
Right. Yeah. What about Tim Mormon, another firefighter, Boynton Beach? Just curious. And those are the only two, local names I'll try to drop.
I knew Tim down there, but I don't know the last name. So,
did you ever write for the Palm Beach Post?
I did. I wrote for all the South Florida newspapers, Sun Sentinel, Miami Herald. In Miami Herald, you may remember they had a Sunday supplement, the Tropic magazine, and they would let you could write fiction for them.
Yep.
And I was doing nonfiction stuff for the newspapers on my days off. Like a lot of things that I went to, fires and murders and so forth that I went to that, I don't know, maybe it was a cathartic thing for me to write about them. And back in those days, people would buy articles and for pretty good money. I mean,
Now, did you ever have ambitions to be a policeman?
Negative.
Okay.
No.
Just kind of like watching and observing all the crazy stuff they do. And
I worked with a lot of cops, and I have a lot of policeman friends. But the reception you get is coming to the door as a firefighter.
Oh,
they want you to come in and do CPR and Uncle Bob.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. But the police don't quite get that reception, and
I totally get it.
Yeah, people are usually happy to see the firefighters.
They don't shoot it as much. I won't say we have not been shot at, but
that's true.
Not as much.
Right. I could see ambulances getting robbed for narcotics, but other than that, I would think most people are pretty happy to have you guys on the scene.
We had a couple of wrestling matches here and there, but some of that's fun stuff.
But I would imagine, like you said, having seen fires, obviously being in the fire department, and also just as EMTs or working with EMTs showing up at crime scenes, you probably worked pretty closely with the police. Did that? How much of that did you draw on? Is when the imagery in some of your books, when some of the crimes, how much of that is drawn from things you've actually seen?
Quite a bit of it. If you see a murder in there, it's probably a good chance that I saw that murder. I change sometimes locations, but I still have a lot of friends in the police department that I call on for some information or connections, and I actually still work on some cases. With the serial killer book, American Ripper. There are still some victims that they're finding.
Because that's a real story, right? The American, what is it? American Thriller?
American Ripper.
Ripper, that's real. That's completely...
That was based on Gerard Schaefer, who was a cop and a serial killer, and, not a very good combination.
Martin County?
He started, that's where he ended up. He was in Wilton Manors, initially, and he lived down in Broward. And Wilton Manors fired him. You know, they knew he was odd. You know, he put some handcuffs on another cop that he had no key for. You know, and he would yell at people he'd pull over and keep their licenses and so forth.
Keeping trophies.
So they fired him, and he was immediately hired in Martin County. He made up his own application and his own letters, you know, praising himself, and they hired him,
nice.
and that became his killing ground. They liked to go on the woods and the mangroves, and back then Martin County wasn't built. You know, hardly anybody living in Martin County, and that's where he took quite a few of his victims, usually 2 at a time. And we can go up. We could do a whole hour on that story alone.
Right, yeah,
You just
no,
tell me when to quit talking.
Well, we'll get back to it,
Okay.
but I only because I haven't read that one yet, so I don't have any. I have no good prime questions for you, except for to ask about the true facts of the situation.
I can say it's my only nonfiction, and it'll probably be my only nonfiction because I worked on that for some 20 years.
Right.
And he ended up suing me. I met him in prison. I did one short article for Miami Herald, and
What did he
He
try
did-
to sue you for defamation?
yeah, well, somebody, I think it was a setup, but I got a letter from somebody that said he wanted to do a book on him. He heard that I was working on it, and I can't remember the person's name. I think it was a made-up person that Schaefer wrote to me and wanted me to say something, and I fell right into it. And he said, well, I want to meet him, but first of all, it's very hard to get into prison to meet anybody.
Right.
But it took years for me to get in. I got another warden and get in. But when I did meet him, I mean, you know, I went in thinking, you know, he's going to be, you know, like some monster out of a movie, you know, and he was. I'm sure people who were his victims think that and thought that. But to me, he was, I will say, they said in the letter that he's an overfed, doughy wimp who preys on people psychologically and physiologically weaker than him. So I was sued by him 3 times, and the first time.
So he's no Hannibal Lecter. He's not sitting in there.
No, he's not. He's not that clever.
Right.
But
I didn't realize that you could slander a serial killer, or
Yeah.
even the concept of that is insane to me.
Yeah, that's what seems like.
crazy.
How could-
it's,
what
it's
legal-
absolutely true, and that's also in the book. But I mean, when he sued me, he knew that I had cleared him of about 14 of the victims they said he killed, because what he would do is take everyone's driver's license, and when he'd pull them over and get their driver's license. So they found a lot of people's belongings in his house, and they made an assumption back then, and we had no computers back then, if you think
Right,
about
right,
it.
right.
And they made the assumption, okay, he killed all these people that had the driver's license. And some of them he did, but I started doing my research, and of course back then it was all try and find that person's number that lives in Kansas, try and track him down, and I cleared him of 14 murders. Right. That said, I also found out there was more that he did kill, and I still work with the police now on
How many additional did you discover?
I'd say
My
around,
morbid sense of curiosity. I want to know 14. I want to see how this balanced out.
I'm going to say around 7 more that I'm sure, and they keep turning up because.
So it's kind of like you exonerate them of 7.
Yeah.
Minus 14 plus 7.
Yeah. So, but he sued me, and it was settled with prejudice. So basically, I had to tell him the names of the ones I knew he killed, the ones he didn't kill, and then that was going to be over. So if you sued me and we settled with prejudice, you could never sue me again. If you did, I could take everything you owned. What are you going to get from a prisoner?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
he's sitting in jail. He's got old canvas shoes on with his toes sticking out of them. You know,
He's never getting out of prison either, I'm sure.
No, never. Well, he did in a way, a bad way, but so he just kept suing me, and I had to entertain it. And I just got married. My wife didn't even know about me working on this book, other than just some conversations we had. And after the 3rd lawsuit, and I spent thousands, tens of thousands of dollars, defending myself. He spent nothing. He would handwrite all of his litigation.
Right. Yeah.
What else do you do with time on your hands?
So he basically turned into a jailhouse lawyer.
He did. He absolutely did. And he was suing me for the 3rd time, and my wife, and during that time, said never ever publish this book, and that's why I didn't publish it until a few years ago. But he was suing me for the third time in 1995, and 2 days before Christmas, the warden at the prison calls me up because we got to be, I wouldn't say friends, but certainly acquaintances.
Yeah.
And he says, Mr. Kendrick, I have some news for you that Mr. Schaefer was stabbed in his cell last night 42 times, and his eyes were cut out and thrown in the rec yard.
No.
I just want to let you know and say Merry Christmas.
Wow.
So somebody left the
Lord.
doors open. There was two crazy guys, him and one other guy down at the end of the aisle or whatever. Doors were left open. And the other guy was not a serial killer, but he's one of the guys that came over on the when Cuba left.
The Mariel boat lift?
Yes,
Right,
exactly.
right.
The first thing he did is come up on the beach and stab a German tourist to death. But, he wasn't a serial killer,
Right.
but he was just
Just
crazy.
crazy.
He couldn't be around people, obviously. And so that's the
So
guy
they
that
kind of
killed him.
Epsteined him.
Yeah.
With, no pun intended, but
No.
with extreme prejudice, I would add. 42
Absolutely.
times, and his eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's a
what's that
message.
symbolic of?
So he
Cutting
didn't
the
sue
eyes
me.
out.
He didn't sue me anymore after that.
Yeah,
No,
guess
I would
not.
imagine not. You touched upon how hard it was to do the research for that, and you said that was before the internet. I was curious, with these novels, how much of the time is spent doing research versus how long does it take to write the novel? And also, the other half of that is how much easier is the research now with the use of the internet?
I'll answer that first. It's a lot easier, but you still have to check a lot of different sites. I mean, if you just go with one site, you're not being a very good investigator.
Right.
So, and then if you can find some information out of that, maybe find somebody's name, then you can find somebody's phone number, and then you can talk to them. So, hour for hour, I'd say I'm just going to guess, I would probably say for every hour I write, I've probably done 20 hours of research.
Oof.
Just guessing.
Lord.
I mean, but it's a lot more than the time it takes to write because I know what I want to write. I just have to make sure I'm writing it with some accuracy to give it some belief.
As I was reading Papa's Problem, it's for people, for the audience, for listeners and viewers, Papa's Problem is about a murder mystery that occurs in Key West in 1939, and Ernest Hemingway is one of the characters in the book. So I would say that this falls into the category of historical fiction, a jumping off point. And one of the reasons I don't think I got as far as he did in reading his is I relentlessly, as I was reading this, would stop and then do a little bit of research because I read whatever I had to of Hemingway when I was in school, but I was never that enamored of him. So I've never truly, I know how he killed himself and whatnot, but I never really knew that much about his life. And every single thing, obviously, you did, as you just said, 20-1 for the hours, but it certainly shows because I couldn't. I'm a third of the way through. I couldn't find anything that was even close to not being dead on accurate as far as the character, the settings, the terminology, the phrases that the characters used. I even went so far as I was really interested in McWayne's description of the blood droplets that were on Hemingway's shirt and his description of the comet trails. And I was curious as to somebody in 1939 having access to that sort of blood spatter analysis. And sure enough, 1895 Petrowski in Krakow, and somebody in Scotland Yard would have had access to that on the continent, much more so than an American. So even where he comes from explains his knowledge. And kudos is what I can say. I was really, really impressed.
Now, Hemingway
by all
was in that book, too. And this is why I kind of don't want to talk too much about the books myself because I'm not good at keeping secrets or not giving away the ending.
I've heard that.
And Hemingway doesn't show up in that one till the end.
Right.
I don't want to say too much.
I feel confident talking about what I've read because as being only the third way through, I don't think I can give out too many spoilers. You know what I mean? Because I'm not at the end of the mystery.
But you do seem to have a theme of like a Key Westy, Hemingway. That seems to be a running theme in most all of your books, right? At least these two, obviously.
These two, with this character.
Oh, is it just these two?
He was, he's a Scotland Yard inspector.
Right.
His wife dies from basically pneumonia.
Right.
Spanish flu, 1914.
Or whatever it was.
And then
I made
interspersed,
research.
It's fresher in my head than yours, obviously. You wrote it a while ago. I just read it yesterday. So.
and then interspersed with your fictional character, you got all kinds of real people. Like my book had Ford and the guys that work for Ford. I forget their name, Leibold or Bennett or whatever they're.
And those were real
and those are
people.
real people.
And Leibold actually, if you read the whole thing,
Right.
You know, he'd like to share information he shouldn't be sharing.
Right.
And he actually did it with a plane that they were going to build for the Army, and so that kind of nixed that deal.
It's funny, we had mentioned that we had breakfast with this guy before, but we were talking about the fact we did a medical horror store episode, which he could have been on, but we also mentioned before that my grandfather might have been a Nazi spy.
Well, I would like to have interviewed him.
Well, yeah, I mean, he was around at those times, and he was German. He spoke German. He flew. He was flying for this, and he was a photographer. And it was just like
he had the right skill set,
Yeah.
the right
he
background, and
did.
the right skill set to be approached. Was he? We don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was dirty.
Could he have been? Probably.
Maybe. Who knows? I mean, I don't think he had any, particular ideology that would have kept him from not doing it. He seemed to be mostly interested in money. So if they came and said, "Hey, we'll give you X amount of money to," but I don't know. Who knows?
There were
Who
a lot
knows?
of people who sympathized with the Nazis,
Right.
who thought that they were doing a pretty good job and would have welcomed them coming here. And
So
there's a
is
lot
that?
of information on that.
Wasn't that one of the questions? Like what would McSwain say about this anti-Semitism that they're claiming today, like these days?
Well, that was one of your questions after reading the Edison one.
Yeah, it's like, gosh, it's like, I mean, your book obviously is, during the World War II period, where clearly there was a lot of anti-Semitism. But nowadays, if you say, hey, maybe don't kill the women and children in Gaza, you anti-Semite. It's like, I don't know. It seems to have, the spectrum is kind of.
Well, I think it's always been touchy. I think, World War II was essentially about the Jews. And they were giving them back a piece of land that was written about in a document that was a couple thousand years old. And I think some people were displaced and other people just didn't like him for whatever reasons. They were.
Yeah, I mean, there's reasons they're not like either. If you can, if you're empathetic at all, you can certainly see both sides. Arguments of like, hey, but what? Yeah, I thought it. Find it hilarious now that even Trump is going, you better turn back those bombers.
Yeah.
I mean, even Trump is like, that's enough, guys. They're just out of control, I think. But
the thing that shocked me the most was the initial tweet that basically said, we've dropped bombs. And in the same tweet, the very last sentence, now is the time for peace, all in capitals. It's like, you can't really order people to don't retaliate, don't be mad. We had to do this. Sorry, we're going to drop these bombs on you, and then that's it. That's the end of the fight.
This is my running joke is today's day 14 of the 12-day war.
Right.
It's like, wait, what happened? We were supposed to. Oh, we didn't stop. Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
I want to get back to asking questions
Sorry
about this book.
Okay, great, thanks.
Influences. I'm not going to ask you who they were, or I guess I will in a minute, but I just wanted to tell you like some of the names that I thought of when I was reading the book, or things that reminded me of other authors. I thought about Jeff Lindsay. I didn't know if you'd ever read any of the Darkly Dreaming Dexters, especially the blood spatter analysis stuff.
I have not, and a lot of people compare what I did with my true crime book with Dexter, and they think that I like to watch those kinds of shows, and that's all I think about. But it's not. I was just focused on this one person. I came to know him personally, the killer, and I once I started doing articles about it, people started contacting me, and then when I finished the book, I can tell you now I have still solved some murders since then. The police call me often, and they've called me from Marathon in the Keys. They've called me from like Ohio. There's a local cold case policeman that works with Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office that calls me. And they found a body in late '72 in the mangroves in Martin County. It was never identified until they contacted me a little over a year ago, maybe 2 years, and her name was Karen Poole. And so they called me and said, we know that we've read your book. This is the cops calling me, the policeman, and said, can you, we want to give you some details, and can you tell us, do you think Schaefer would have killed her? And all the earmarks were there. She was, dismembered, and and all they had mostly of her was her skeleton. But they also had her arms were tied up. And I have pictures of the crime scenes that he did years ago. The pictures were taken back in the 70s. So anything before 1973, and that's my cutoff right there, because he went to jail in 73 for kidnapping 2 girls that got away. And because he was a cop, he got 6 months in jail. Basically, he lost his license to practice law or be a cop,
Right.
and a slap on the hand. If you and I kidnapped two people and threatened to kill them and had them tied up and told them what we were going to do with them when they got, he was in his police car and they had to get back to work and they got away, we would be in jail forever. That's just all there is to it. But he got 6 months, but while he was in there, that's when they started finding all the other. They started looking around at where those girls were, and they started finding other bodies out there, and some of them were still not completely decomposed, and they were able to identify them, and that was Susan Place and Georgia Jessup, and then those were the 2 he was eventually convicted for. And then there was many more after that.
Did he incriminate himself in that 6 months in jail? A lot of people do that. They run their mouths in jail. And
No.
he's a cop. He's probably smart enough not to do that.
I think he thought, I got this, man. I'm out of here in a few months. And then when they find the bodies, they said, well, let's not let him out of there just yet.
So how long did he get out for before they figured out he was a murderer?
He did not get out.
Oh, he never got out? Oh,
While
okay.
he was there was when they found the other
Gotcha.
bodies. And so they said, well, hey, let's not let him out of that 6-month thing. And they started doing an investigation. And they found the ropes that he tied him up with. They found.
Oh, so that's what linked him? I was going to ask. That was my next question.
The knives and stuff. And, of course, he was a butcher as well. And that was one of his nicknames, the Butcher of Blind Creek, because that was the area they found him. And then they just kept finding more and more. And they really don't know how many. And I don't really know how many
And he
killed.
dumped all the bodies in like the same area?
Typically, I mean, in
Same kind of area?
here he did. I mean, there was at least 6 from that area. Of course, the 2 survivors, and then 4 more bodies found in that area. And then Karen Poole that they just discovered, they had her remains since '72, but it's a cold case. They get put away, and then nobody puts it together, and then somebody gets stuck with being a cold case detective, like the man I work with Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office.
And so now at this point, is there like definitive DNA evidence or something that can link her with this guy, or are we just pretty much going like that? It just looks like it's probably him.
She was pretty decomposed, but the way he tied knots and he grew with his knot tying. He used to start off with big sisal rope, thick rope that you could get out of easy enough. You pulled on it enough. Then he went to leather straps, and then finally he started using wire that's what he used on Karen. And then I do reach out to these people's families, and I don't think I'll get back into the book if we ever do a renewal on it or something like that.
How many years was he active? He was caught in '73.
Well, we really don't know, but I would say it was in the late 60s. He was married to one woman that would not talk to anybody and still will not talk to anybody. And then he married the woman he did marry, and he was married to her when he was killing the girls. And how she could never pick up on that, I don't know. But it was convoluted. The whole thing's convoluted.
Well, there are guys that have like whole separate lives. You ever heard of those guys that have like a wife and
sure.
kids one place and a wife and kids somewhere else, and somehow and they never find out about each other? So
she was in totally disbelief, and you can see pictures of her in court, and you can tell she just doesn't believe this still. I mean, it's how could you accept that? Your husband is a total maniac, and they didn't even have the term serial killer back then. And
so what was the evidence that proved that he was the killer?
They had some of Susan Place's teeth at his house. He would pull their teeth sometimes and keep.
Oh, that'll do it. That's pretty damning evidence.
Georgia.
You got body parts of your victim. That's pretty good. That'll do it for me.
Yeah, and then one of the girls, Georgia Jessup, was wearing some jeans that had a Roadrunner emblem sewn on them, and they were still at the scene. So they were identified pretty easily, actually.
that'll do
And
it.
they had not been gone that long. They'd been gone maybe 6 months. So
See, and you would think, as a police officer, he would know better than to keep that stuff around. But they all have to keep some kind of trophy or something, don't they? The serial killers.
They do, and they also think that they're brilliant, and they are pretty smart. But all they can think about is how brilliant I am, and how this is so cool. I'm doing this really bad stuff, and nobody's catching me.
Right.
And not to mention the added feeling of superiority of being a police officer, literally feeling like you're above the law and untouchable. I mean, as bad as most, as narcissistic as most serial killers are, as a cop, it could only be worse.
True.
Sure, he was a narcissist, no doubt about it. I mean, he used to take pictures of himself. It's very weird. How weird can I get on the show?
Oh, you can say anything on this show.
Okay, he would dress up as a woman. This is before he started killing him, and he would put a mirror in the woods. I have seen these pictures, and I even have some of them, regrettably. But he would hang himself. He'd put up a noose and hang himself, and in a woman's dress, and he would rub feces all over himself. I mean, you just couldn't get any sicker than this. I don't know what the turn on would be with that.
We see
It almost sounds like the guy in the serial killer in Red Dragon.
Very much
posting
so.
mirrors so that he could see, and putting mirrors in their eyes so he could see the reflection of himself, like they were looking at him even though they were dead, and propping up their bodies and dancing in front of them.
Yeah, and it was him encouraging himself to you can do this thing. You don't have to just do this thing to yourself anymore. Do it to somebody else, and that's his history. It's unbelievable. You can't explain it to anybody. I mean, it's just a world.
No, yeah, you got to be
anomaly.
pretty twisted. There's some twisted people.
And there's
out
still more people out there, a lot like
yeah.
that. I do a speech when I do the writing conferences on serial killers, and there's just really hundreds of them out there still. And I usually do about 30 of them in the history and how they get
Now,
caught.
have you heard that they think there's one on the loose right now that's supposedly probably a trucker, because there's all kinds of unsolved.
You're talking about the Austin one with the Ladybird Lake?
No, apparently they're all over the country, but they're all very similar and near major highways. So they think there's a guy driving a semi.
Have you seen the theory that it's
No.
Tom Segura in Austin? It all started happening right after he moved there, and he's a really dark comedian that's he really looks at fucked up things, and he and Rogan always send each other really horrific text threads with horrific images. Yeah, there's an ongoing theory going around. Of course, he's been saying for years that Garth Brooks is a serial killer, which is he just started some random beef with him,
I might agree with that.
Well, speaking of random beefs, Mike's got to be an Iranian.
Oh, yeah, for sure, yeah.
Have you ever seen a podcast called Matan?
I have not.
All right, well,
It's a pretty niche show.
It is. It's just kind of silly. It's like literally, say, Andy Kaufman meets Tom Green, but he has this sidekick that I'm pretty sure he's here as an Iranian in a sleeper cell.
It's bizarre performance art for sure.
Yeah, he looks like an Iranian. That would, yeah. I don't want to. Should we say Tim Dillon's version of Vivek's name?
Vivek, that guy. I can't. Every time I hear him say it, it makes me piss myself with laughter.
You know who Tim Dillon is, I'm sure, right?
A comedian?
Yeah. He's got a podcast, but he's hilarious. He's
Very sarcastic podcast, but pretty
God.
informative and entertaining.
I fell on the ground laughing when he said Vivek.
Yeah. Ramaswamy.
I was like, oh my God.
So how many of your 6 novels star Emmett McQueen?
Just 2.
Just 2.
That was
two
my
we read.
I always wanted to do a series. That Papa Swab was my first book, and it was still my wife's favorite, and a lot of people's favorite. A lot of people have read all my books, and I always get back to the Key West story with Emmett.
Now, where did the inspiration for the character McSwain come from?
McQueen.
Or whatever. Yeah, sorry. Emmett.
I actually thought of him being like Sean Connery.
I was going to ask you. I was like,
That
if you
was
had to
one of my
pick a-
questions is who would you cast?
I was a
Same-
huge
same
Connery
Who would you
fan.
cast as Emmett
Oh,
McQueen?
Sean Connery. Oh, so, yeah, I see now. Yeah,
and
that makes sense.
That's who and with the Scottish accent and all that kind of thing. That was who I thought of when I did that. So when I wrote that, of course, Sean Connery was still alive, and the character was like his age.
Right.
So now, that was 17 years ago, and I didn't put the sequel out until last year. So 17 years between.
Ewan McGregor's not tall enough.
I like Ewan. No,
It'd have to be what's his name? Liam Neeson.
Neeson?
Yeah, right. He's the only tall Scott left, right?
he would work too. I love that. Hey, Liam Neeson. Anybody,
I have a
jump in
particular
the
set
movie.
of skills.
Please tell me that you are going to write. There's going to be more with McQueen.
I am. I'm
Outstanding.
working on the third one. I'm not sure if I'll do more than that because I have some other series I'd like to continue. There's one I did, a young adult book called The Savants. I got the rights back to that because it was a crooked publisher, and I never wanted to work with them again.
And what's that one about?
That one, it was written for young adults, and it's basically there's the savants. They're all people that are very smart and very special, and yet they're not very communicative. They're not they don't blend in with people.
Now, do you think savants, in the classical sense, are they just autistic? You think possibly?
I absolutely think so.
I believe the term is autistic savant.
Yes.
Oh.
Or no, actually, it was idiot savant, which is just a harsh. I mean,
They have several different breakdowns for them, but now they typically they don't call them savants, but on the spectrum is what they say now.
And bearing in mind the use of the term idiot in that expression is not a derogatory term.
No,
it's
it's
merely a
technical,
medical
yeah.
term.
Yeah, medical technical
Idiot,
term.
imbecile, and moron were the rankings of IQs. I believe it starts from 60 all the way up to somewhere maybe 90. But
Yeah.
that's why they kept calling.
I mean, it has
George
become
Bush
a
an idiot.
pejorative term, but it was originally,
It was a medical term, and there was I try and keep them straight. There's idiot, imbecile, and moron.
right.
And I want to say the imbecile was that could not function outside or whatever.
Right.
And I just say this because I've done research up in Indiana at a place called Muscatatuck. It's called MUTSI. It's Muscatatuck Urban Training Site, and I work with the military up there. I just work with the military up there. I can't say a whole lot more about that. But the hospital is a real place. It used to be a mental hospital for what they call feeble-minded people, and they had a poster up there when I first started working that I found, and this is what they had, So like the imbecile was at the bottom, and IQ, then the moron, and then I think the idiot was okay. They could work with things inside
Yeah,
the
George Bush.
hospital.
Yeah.
Solid.
No, he was technically, when he tested his IQ, he was an idiot. He was in the idiot level.
So they could do some work in the hospital, and then I think the morons could work in the cornfields and stuff like that if they were supervised. But the imbecile just sat in the room and was usually chained up and hit with the hose.
Even McNamara couldn't find a use for him.
Well, see, now you're
He only accepted morons.
so now you open a can of worms that we've talked about on a different. So
The
do
voting
they have,
again? Here
what's
we go.
that?
The voting.
No,
They have the right to vote.
the autistic kids driving the UAPs. Have you heard about that theory?
No,
He's like, no, that's not true.
no,
They're not doing that at that hospital at all. No, but that's the theory is that, well, first of all, there was some chick that went on Rogan that swears that nonverbal autistic kids can all speak to each other psychically. And then, of course,
Telepathically. Yeah.
And so then somehow that's morphed into the fact that the military's not only been breeding autistic kids, but they're having these kids are the ones that somehow telepathically control the UAPs that are flying around, which is an interesting theory.
And they're all housed in the Hollow Earth. Yeah, I'm not buying it.
I hadn't heard the Hollow Earth part yet, but
I'm not buying it.
Well, going back to the savants, that's what it was. Basically, I tore down some of those myths with that, and I think there's 5 or 6 of these people that they bring in from different places in the world that have a certain ability and a certain knowledge of something. And this a professor is studying him. His name is Stephen Pevnick, which is actually named after one of my college teachers, and he gives them a problem. Can they work? Can you get people, savants, to work together on a common project? Because they don't, they can't.
Yeah, because they've all got different skill sets or something,
and
right?
so
Yeah.
this group, though, he tells them, here's everything you need to build like a gasoline-powered motor is out here, you know, and they knock one out in one day. Then something bigger happens. There is an atomic bomb that was lost off the eastern coast of the United States. I don't know if you guys know this thing. Have you ever heard about this bomber that was going down and they dropped the payload and supposedly still out there? Well, it's right near the edge of a tectonic plate, which is, you know, a crust, you know, like a scab in the earth, if you will. And the bomb is set off by bad people, and it starts the tectonic plate from slipping, and there's going to be a tidal wave that wipes out the whole eastern coast. And they have no one else that's going to come up with anything, and the savant starts working on that idea to stop that worldwide disaster, and you have to read the book.
Yeah.
There you go.
Which is not in print right now because I got the rights back from the publisher, and that's another thing I want to.
That's an interesting theory.
So obviously with the Key West setting, it also made me think of Elmore Leonard in the Florida settings.
I love Elmore
and
Leonard.
And then the character of McQueen himself made me think Lawrence Sanders.
Oh, yeah?
Edward X.
Yeah.
Delaney.
I used to read a lot of Lawrence Sanders. John D. McDonald was my favorite. He wrote the Travis McGee series. All of them had a different color, you know. The Deep Blue Goodbye and so forth like that.
No idea who any of these people are.
Oh, you got to
I'm not a big reader.
Lawrence Sanders wrote the there were 7 of them. The first Deadly Sin, second Deadly Sin. I mean, he wrote other things too. The book, The Tomorrow Files, that was an insane, futuristic, dystopian, really weird novel for him, I thought.
Yeah, a little different.
But yeah, so I haven't, again, not all the way through this one yet, but I haven't noticed yet any, how should I put this, weird eccentricities or habits of McQueen. And I'm curious if they're going to pop up later and I just haven't seen them, or if it's something you steered away from, because a lot of characters, a lot of recurring crime-solving kind of characters, like, for example, Delaney with his sandwiches. He's always eating. He's got his dry sandwiches and his wet sandwich. And Sanders works it into every single book. If you've ever read any of the Reacher novels, you know that he likes his coffee black. He doesn't wash his clothes, and all he carries is a toothbrush. You know what I mean? But I haven't noticed any McQueenisms yet. He seems to be already solid around. You know, nothing odd.
No, I don't think there is anything odd about him. He's always haunted by the death of his wife. And so I think, you know, when someone murders someone, his wife died of basically pneumonia, but he's sensitive to it. And so I would say more so than most detectives, even though he's a pretty tough guy too, he's pretty sensitive.
And a pretty generous guy. Let's talk about giving that. I don't know how old Gregory was in that scene. I'm guessing maybe 8 or 9. $100 bill to an 8-year-old in 1939 was quite an exorbitant gift. Keep it under your hat, indeed. Yeah. About $2,200, I think.
In that one, Ford gives him a car.
Oh, wow.
Hey, someone's got to get something for free, right? No, but he doesn't even want to do the work anymore. He just gets pulled back into it.
You know, it's funny, too. You threw me for a loop with one character in the book, which I could have swore as soon as the character entered the story, I was like, oh, he just got honeypotted. That's a spy. But it turns out, I think this is a character setting you up for another book. In the Bessie character or whatever? The one that joined the circus?
Oh, Bessie. No, Bessie, at the end, well...
Yeah, I don't want to give anything away.
Bessie is...
so she's not for another book?
You might have to answer his questions after the show.
The next book starts off. He goes looking for Bessie because you remember at the end of that she's gone missing.
That's what
from
it
the
seemed
circus.
like. Yes, yeah.
She went missing from the circus. So
yeah, I was totally you know, you introduced that character, and I'm like, all right, when's she going to come back in and she's going to be a spy? Oh, well, okay, no, that's what threw me off with that one.
Well, you have to read the next one.
Yeah.
And what's that one called?
I don't think I have it titled yet. I've had it.
Oh, you haven't finished that one?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I can't wait then.
No, that's actually Well,
So
I
if
tend
it's-
to work on a couple of books at the same time.
So does this one launch into that one a little bit that way, or is it that order?
That's the first one. So this one has a lot of elements from
Gotcha.
that come back.
Gotcha.
You don't have to read that book to read this book.
No, yeah, I just read that. Yeah, exactly.
I consciously did that because I start reading a series character and I go, oh gosh, do I have to go back to the first one?
Right.
And in some cases you do if you want to get to know every toenail on the guy or whatever. But
Right. Well, I'm sure you're glad you started with that one now, right?
I am.
Yeah.
yeah, so you'll just
That is
see
why I
things-
chose it.
You'll see things
Oh,
grow.
did you
on
know
that.
that it was like a?
I checked the copyright of the 3 you gave me, and I chose the first of the 3.
Interesting. I would have never thought to do that.
Yeah, so the characteristics that are built into him in that book will continue. He's just a good person. He doesn't want to do the investigative work anymore. He just wants to fish in Key West, and he keeps getting pulled away from that for various reasons. And then you've read this, about the FBI agent Siri.
Right. Now, was he a real character, a real person?
No, but he's based on a friend of mine that I worked with at the fire department. Sorry, Bill Siri. You're kind of a good guy.
So, but he never worked for the FBI, though.
No. It's just I pick names a lot of times of people I know. I won't put their whole name. I'll use maybe
Right.
their last name or their first name, and then some of them go.
But is there
was-
like an essence of that character
Well, there
that
was
you
one guy
associate with the name?
There was one guy I didn't like at West Palm Beach, and he's the guy that gets murdered in that book right there.
Nice.
There you go.
In a horrible way.
Hey, well, that's what you get.
A lot of people got murdered in that book. So yeah, it could have been a bunch of different people.
Yeah, I like McQueen's his turn of phrases. The first time he meets Hemingway, Hemingway challenges him, knock me out and take the 100. And Hemingway says something to him to the effect of, I can't tell if you're an Englishman or an Irishman. To which McQueen says, either would be your better, which I thought was really funny. And then within the same breath, it says, but you seem the type of man, let me see your money. You seem the type of man that would Welsh on a bet. So essentially, in less than 30 seconds, he insulted the Welsh, but then he exonerated the Irish and the English. It was really nice.
Well, you're a good reader, and I'm honored by that because, but people do ask, where do you get these ideas and stuff, and a lot of them just come from real life incidents. And
I'm trying to talk him into writing a book. I think he'd be good at it.
Another thing I noticed too about this style that I really appreciate, and it's, in my opinion, it's a nod towards the intelligence of the reader, is the not overusing he said, she said, then they replied, then he retorted. Once you get into the meat and potatoes of a lot of the conversations, the flow is so clearly obvious, and that it's quite obvious who's saying what. You don't need to add
That's
that
what the
constant
parentheses
he
are
said,
for.
she said.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, I know, but still, you're not adding all the extraneous.
Right.
But you didn't go crazy with it like a Cormac McCarthy, where sometimes it's hard to tell what's dialogue and what's description. He's not using any punctuation. It's too loosey-goosey, but it's a nice middle of the road there.
you're a good reader because I consciously have tried to take that out. But like you said, you can't go through the whole book like that. If you do it too much, someone will go, "Oh, who's talking now?"
It's done judiciously.
So yeah, but like you said too, every book that you read and it's he said, she said like that, you already know that they're in a conversation.
Right. And then
there's 6 paragraphs.
And there's only so
into
many
it.
ways. There's only so many synonyms for he said, he exalted, he harumphed. You know what I mean? Eventually, it's like, okay, can you just leave it? Yeah, he said, and just go back to the basics, or better yet, don't even say it at all.
And the harumphing hurts too.
Yeah.
So.
I didn't get a harumph out of that guy.
So have you always wanted to write books like when you were a kid growing up, or is it something that came later?
I wanted to be an artist, and that's why I do my own book covers. And I studied fine arts, and in college I studied fine arts and writing, but fine arts was my main thing. I did bronze casting and printmaking and painting, and just loved it.
How'd you get into firefighting from that?
Well, because I don't know if you know many rich painters. You'll see a lot of them.
That's true.
At the fairs and at
That's true. Good point. So what got you into firefighting? Aren't most firefighters ex-military?
After I got my degree in fine arts, and then I started to work on my master's degree, I also found that I wasn't making a lot of money. I used to do construction. My brother did construction. A lot of the friends that I met at the fire department do construction, and there's a friend of mine I grew up with, and he used to work with me, and he goes, "Hey, I don't want to do this my whole life. I want to get a job," and he got hired at the airport fire department, which was separate. Palm Beach County didn't exist yet as a fire service. And I said, "Well, tell me something about that." And he goes, "Well, it's not like big money, but you only work every third day, and you're off for 2 days after that, and then every 3 days you get a Kelly Day, which means you're off for 5 days." I was like, "I want that." So I applied at West Palm Beach. And then I went to Italy and lived in Venice for a while, working on my master's degree in fine arts with NYU. And when I came back, they still putzed around doing this with that and that with construction work. And they called me up, and I was in the middle of building a spec house. And the deputy chief from West Palm called me up and said, "If you can start Monday, we're going to hire you." And I said, "Well, I'm really busy right now." And he said, "We don't call twice."
Yeah, I was going to say, you might as well, yeah.
What the heck?
I can make some time.
I'll give it a shot. And I ended up loving it. And then the things you see, and of course, I wanted to write as well. And why I wanted to write, it was kind of my secondary thing. I wanted to be a painter. But I like to write, and I like to write stories, but I couldn't figure out how to sell them. And then once I got in the fire department, I started writing about my experiences, and people loved it. I mean, it was a very good side job for me.
And this is when you're like writing for the paper and stuff. You'd write like articles about stuff
Yeah.
you'd seen, and
Yeah, things. Like one of the first. I was on the job 8 months, and I went to a pawn shop where two young people, 15 years old, poured gas on the proprietor of the place, and said, "Give us the money out of the cash register," and he gave it to him. And out of spite, one of them turned around and threw a torch on him and burned him to death. He was still alive when I got there,
Oof.
and begging me to kill him.
Yeah, that's a rough way to go. That's
And
not.
I was like, I was mortified. I was shocked. And I had to go in the pawn shop, which was blowing up everything. There's TVs blowing up in there. There's ammunition in there exploding.
Right.
And so I thought, I got something to write about.
Yeah.
And I wrote that, and it got published, and that kid got caught, and he went to jail, and I had to testify in the case against him, and he would go for parole every 10 years or so, and I'd have to go back in and testify again. That's happened three times.
That's like a victim statement or
gone
something, or victim. What's it called? Yeah, whatever.
Well,
Deposition?
They have good behavior in jail, and so they start saying, well, maybe they can get out, and then they have to go back to court, and they always call me in to testify. I don't know how can you ever get over that you were evil enough, bad enough, whatever you want to call it, to put
callous.
gasoline on somebody. There's nothing worse than getting burned to death. I can tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, you can't even say that wasn't premeditated.
Yeah,
I mean,
you
there's
shoot somebody in the
nothing more premeditated than that.
No,
And-
and after receiving the money,
Exactly.
pure callous evil.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
no.
And that's what I think. I think this is a guy, if you let him out, if he was that way before, he was born that way. And I think that about serial killers. I think that there's something wrong with them, genetically.
But see, here's the thing, though. But the difference between a guy like a serial killer and a guy like that guy's stupid. The guy with the gas that's just stupid.
Well, yeah, I mean,
You're never going to get away with that.
Serial killers are not.
At least serial killers are smart.
Serial killers aren't that smart.
Well,
some
but
of
they
them,
think
some
they're
of them are. The
Yeah.
greatest advantage I've always
true.
felt that they had, and statistically, is that murdering a complete stranger for no motive remains, even with modern technology, kind of hard to prove sometimes.
Unpredictable, yeah.
If you went into a place to rob a guy, there's your you know what I mean? Motive. There's CCTV and all that. But murdering complete strangers, and specifically before DNA evidence, How do you catch a guy like that, especially a
Did the guy have
transient,
some
somebody
kind
that's
of beef
traveling?
with the pawn shop owner, like he had taken advantage of him or something like that?
No.
Just
They
random,
they
just like
went
they just
in
wanted to rob him?
And the other kid wasn't in on that, but he could have just left. He had the money, and he turned around and threw the torch on him. And
Would they have like a road
and-
flare or something?
what?
What kind of torch? How did they have it?
Oh, he had some sort of a. I'm not sure what it was, because if he threw it in there, it got burned up like everything else. But they were saying he was carrying a torch, and I wasn't there when that happened.
Nowadays, I mean, when was this?
That was in 1983.
Okay, never mind. I was going to say currently the kids these days like to smoke all that wax and shatter and all these THC concentrates. A lot of people have torches nowadays.
Oh yeah, those little butane
Yeah.
torches. Yeah.
I mean, even the big ones at home, but
I get
maybe
the
not
sense
back
it
in the
was-
80s.
I got the sense it was like a rolled up thing that.
Yeah.
He said
Either that or probably like
and it had
a little mini road flare or something.
Right.
You know.
It could be, but he'd gassed the place
It's not a
down
good way to
already,
go.
and so I think there's people who have no conscience,
Yeah.
and,
No, that's ridiculous.
and it's a power thing for them too. There's no doubt about that. I have this person in my hand, tied up, or this man covered in gas, and I can kill him. All right, I will kill him.
And you already terrorized them and gotten the money from them, and yet you still feel the need to kill them.
So is that the
There's
craziest
no redeeming.
thing
There's
you
no
saw?
redeeming a person like that. There's no fixing them.
And my feeling is no. I think that they should be put to death. If they can't, it's okay. It's a one-time thing for this kid, and I feel bad about that. Like I'm sure his parents and whoever. But the serial killers, they're not going to be fixed. They cannot. They're not going to be right. If you let them out, they will kill somebody again.
Right.
And
Well, I agree with that, but I don't think we should kill him. I think just keep him locked up forever with no chance of letting him out. But
and some
killing him is just kind of a waste. I don't know.
I disagree. In my opinion, the only reason to keep them alive at all is to study them so that you can try to catch other ones. But even that,
well,
at
not
a
only
certain
that,
point, once you've gotten everything you can out of them,
It basically because of our legal system, truthfully, but it costs more to kill them than to just keep them in prison because of
Does
all
it?
the appeals and stuff.
right? But what if the person is also in the process of suing other people from behind bars relentlessly? At that point, is it cheaper to just put them down?
Well, they should. I mean, at some point, after the first time, they should have said, "Okay, that's."
I mean,
it.
is that not the
we can't just
definition of
keep
a
doing that
frivolous
thing.
lawsuit? Like,
Yeah, right.
slandering somebody who's been convicted of the thing you were saying about them? It just doesn't make any sense to me. Hopping back to your artistic, when you said you did all your covers, I must say you did a really good job on this one, because 2 days ago when I was reading this at Rock and Roll Sushi, the waiter actually came over to me and asked me what I was reading based solely on the cover. He goes, "The cover's really interesting. What is that?" And I explained briefly to him what I was reading.
oh, cool. Thank you.
So it actually attracted attention out in the
Why
wild.
is there a chicken on the cover? Just because Key West chicken? Is that it?
Have you been to Key West?
Yeah.
You see all the
Oh, so it's a
chickens?
Key West chicken?
Cockfighting.
Yeah, so this one just kind of, I had to get some blood on there
Gotcha.
and some walking around. This was my own hand, and I'm right-handed, so I had to do this
Oh, that's funny.
and look at my hand and then draw. And
You
then
didn't.
look at
Why
my-
didn't you take a picture of your hand and
I
look
did.
at? Okay.
I did. I'm just-
That sounds slightly easier.
I just wanted to get you guys to maybe make a joke about it, and it worked.
Well, I would have started off that way too, and after about maybe 10 minutes of it, I thought, well, wait a minute.
So
I can't draw. Can you? Are you a good
I have
artist?
no artistic
Yeah, I was gonna say,
ability
I need
whatsoever,
a-
and I've
need a-
always been very, very jealous of people that could do it. Especially, I remember back in high school, I had a few friends that would just kind of zone out to whatever the teacher was saying and just start scribbling, and then you looked at it and it was like almost Frank Frazetta quality, like Conan
Frank
drawings,
Frazetta, wow,
and
good.
Giant women with giant breasts and
Yeah.
tiny little loincloths and
I love
everything on.
Frank.
I'm like, this one
Endless
kid,
waves,
one friend of mine was just
tube.
an amazing artist at that.
I love Rosetta.
And
My-
then
yeah.
I had another friend that we worked together at a place in Charlotte, North Carolina, and he was artistically inclined, and he had a real fucked up sense of humor like all of us. So he would draw really bizarre pornographic cartoons on the scheduling board, on the whiteboard and stuff. And then the funniest thing I think he ever did, we were selling these bottles of wine. The name of the wine was Frog's Leap. I don't know if this thing still
Oh, yeah.
exists or
Yeah,
not.
I think they
and
still
it's
have
got like the label's got like this a frog in mid leap. Somehow Scott figured out that if you took a pencil eraser, you could make a reverse image on the label. And he perfectly shaded it and buffed it to give one of the bottles, of the frog in one of these bottles, an enormous erection. Like the size of the frog's body. Fully coming up at the curve like the Amazon logo. And just put it back into the wine rack. Somebody at Providence Cafe, which no longer exists, thankfully, somebody bought that bottle and had it brought out to the table. And it was a red, too, so it wouldn't have been in a marble sleeve. They definitely would have seen the logo.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, my mother was a wonderful artist. She was a nurse, and she would do, her pastime was drawing horses, and she could put every hair on there. It was just beautiful.
Oh, wow.
So she influenced my art side, and I had a wonderful high school teacher, Barbara Wendish. If you're listening, I'll get her too. And I ran into her in my 50th anniversary of my graduation, and she's still around.
Oh, wow.
Because she was only probably 4 or 5 years older than me, and
One of those.
I was just smitten with her. And she said, gave an assignment, everybody write a 5-page story. And I already then wanted to do some writing, and I wrote 33 pages, and it was a detective story with a character that was a good character, and then he meets a girl, and there's actually a sex scene in it, and I turned it in, and she's giving everybody their paperback, and she goes, I just have to say, one of my students has done an exemplary job on writing, and I'm going to read the story to the class. And I was like, I didn't get my paper back. and I had it in a red folder, and she starts reading it, and I just like sliding on the table and sweating profusely as she reads the sex scene. And
it wasn't about her, was it?
But everyone, well, it's odd that the girl in the kind of did resemble her. Yeah.
And what year was this, do you think?
I was 19. I was in high school, so it was like 1974 is when I graduated. And I had her in my last year, and I still see her. She came to the reunion, and I got a picture with her, and I told her I would not be writing books had you not praised that one thing that we had to do, you know.
Right.
And,
that was the spark, huh?
So,
No kidding.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And then you went to college, you said, after that?
Yeah.
Where'd you go to college?
Well, I didn't go to college right away. I started doing, I was trying to make a living. I was doing construction. I was doing roofing, shingles, and so forth. If you guys need a roof done.
God, roofing in Florida.
Yeah.
Horrifying.
Absolutely.
I did pavers for a while, but you were closer to the sun, so yours was worse.
There's no shade up there.
It's slave labor. But, so I did that, and then I finally got in the fire department.
But didn't you say you went to college?
I did go, yeah, sorry, I left that.
So around here?
So, yeah,
You were
I
here?
had saved up money, and I got several scholarships, and I started at Palm Beach Junior College then, and I did my first 2 years there, and then I went to USF, University of South Florida, because they had a fantastic art program. They did bronze casting there. That interested me, and printmaking, and just all sorts of like a Renaissance type things, like
And
silver
USF
point.
is Tampa, right? Or they have a oh, okay,
Yeah,
Tampa.
they're Tampa.
Don't
I
they have
loved
like
it over there. It was a good
Don't they have
school.
one over here now too, or something like a extension campus or something like that?
They may have.
Or maybe down south or something. Maybe I don't know. I'm not going back to college. How about you?
I have no plans on going back, no.
Where we got 5 minutes? Wow, that time went by.
Cruising
pretty quick.
right, cruised right along.
So I don't know. What's the overall lesson that you're teaching with your books? What's the moral of the story?
Good guys win and bad guys die. That's simple enough.
And that's your classic crime stories.
And they should. I feel that way strongly because of my relationship with Schaefer, and it still goes on, and it's pitiful. I have the sisters of some of these girls and family members of some of these girls that have contacted me through Facebook, that they've read my book, and they just want to talk to me, like they want to know more.
Right,
And I
right.
can't give them any more than that, but
Yeah, it's weird. If I had a victim of that killer, I don't know if I'd want to read a book about it, but I guess if you're, morbidly curious and just, I don't know.
I think they want me to know more about their loved one that was lost.
Oh, really?
I
Okay.
did.
Interesting.
And I'll be on the phone with them sometimes for hours. And I just let them talk.
And are there a lot of the people, his victims in the book that you wrote? Are they explained or described or characterized or whatever?
And the Schaefer book, the victim.
Yeah. Or it's just mostly about him.
I describe them if I know anything about them. And the two that he was convicted for, I got to know. I talked to the parents. Here's one. I talked to the parents of Susan Place, and they used to live down here. She was abducted down. Well, I say down here, I mean Broward. She was abducted down there, and she was killed in Martin County. They ended up selling their house and buying a lot up there near where she was murdered. And when I interviewed them, I couldn't help but ask, why did you move up here within a mile of where your daughter was murdered? And they said, so we could be closer to her.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Well, unfortunately, we really are out of time. We've got another guest scheduled in the next hour, but I would like to just keep sitting here and talking to you, and maybe we can get you to come back on again.
Oh,
we didn't even discuss hobbies or anything. I wanted to talk to you about scuba diving. Because obviously I saw in your bio that you like to spend time in, on, around, and under the water, which I'm assuming it's a know more than just
I
snorkeling.
didn't know you were a scuba diver. When's the last time you went diving?
It's been a couple years.
I was going to say, I can't remember the last time I was diving.
I went with a group of firemen that went all the time. And,
nice.
And a couple of those guys died off, and then I got to where I was diving by myself, and that's never a good idea.
Yeah, that's true.
And I just need some new gear now, and I'll get back into it. And
All right, so give out the number.
We'll talk about that, yeah. We'll leave links in the description to where you can find Mr. Patrick Kendrick's books, as well as a list of the titles. And you can call us, leave us comments and messages, but you can also call us and leave us messages at 904-549-9024. We'd love to get your questions and answer them on air. And it's been a pleasure having you. I look forward to having you back.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure being here. And if you want me to come back, I'll come back.
Excellent.
You got it. Thank you, Pat.
I can't wait to finish reading this. Thanks, guys. Come see us.
Thanks a lot.